Hey everyone. I'm recording this right now because during the actual live class for week 3, my internet was really bad, so it was really choppy. So I decided just to go ahead and re-record this. And even if you are seeing this, from whichever group you are, whether it's someone who's just following along online or trying to catch up to then join our class, I'm gonna go a bit more in depth here. So this is, I think, actually be pretty useful for everybody. So we go ahead and we're just gonna jump right into it. Let me share my screen. Awesome. I believe y'all can see this now. Great. So week 3, today we're going to be really working on, first week was just kind of getting familiar with R. Second week was just, really getting kind of familiarized with ggplot and getting to plot some basic, just data and just really seeing what that's all about. And now we're kind of getting into data wrangling. And what data wrangling is really comes down to when you get data sets that, almost the majority of the time are not going to be clean. You're going to have to do things to them before you can even actually use them, like whether it's due to faulty collections or outdated, whatever it may be. You always usually have to play around or wrangle with your data. And so we're going to teach you how to do that with the two main functions you'll have to use. So yeah, first thing we're going to do today is just real quick, solid libraries, and this library called NYC Flights 13. Also, if you haven't downloaded this package, we left this here, just uncomment it and then go ahead and run that. This is all in the Google Drive, by the way, which is linked on this YouTube page, or we've linked it through the Slack. And this is just a data set that we're going to be using today. So it's just some quick review. So to assign a variable, we have a arrow sign 3. We do that, and look, it pops up here within our global environment. And we have a3, and we could even just run that in our console. If we put a, bam, it gives us 3. And we're going to see why this, this is again, just a quick review, but it's going to become really relevant pretty soon. So we're going to go ahead and actually skip the collisions. But so first we want to look at flights, which is kind of our data set we just downloaded from the NYC Flights 13. The NYC Flights 13 is this big umbrella group of data sets, and flights is one of the data sets within that, which just has a bunch of information about flights leaving and going, their flight number, their arrivals delay, how long they took, etc. All these, all this really fun stuff. And so the first one we're going to do is filter, and that's what we have right here. And what filter is, it's kind of in the word. Filter means we only want certain parts of this data. And so here, for example, we only want, so filter, by itself is just like this, but you can put within filter parameters. So almost like restrictions of what we want. So in this case, I'm saying month equals 6. So month is one of our variables right here. And as you can guess, month 6 is going to be the June, right? So I'm basically saying here, month equals the 6th. So that's going to mean I only want this. I only want, values or columns where the flights that left in June. So I could run this, and now with this, and now you can see month 6. This only has 28,000 rows. This one has 336,000 rows. So you could see, when we're working with data, this is a huge data set. We're really going to want to work with a much smaller one. One great question someone asked is why we do equals, which is as opposed to just equals. That's a fantastic question. Equals is kind of similar to our arrow up here in terms of it's assigning something, where equals is kind of giving us more of a, output, almost like a true or false. It's not quite like a Boolean statement like true or false, but it's similar to that concept where equals like assigning. So hopefully that makes sense. And the nice thing is we can use these little characters to create new tables, because oftentimes you don't want to eliminate data. When you get in your data from, let's say, a boss or a survey, whatever you want, you don't want to get rid of it. You don't want to remove people, but you want to be able to work with smaller pieces. So what we can do is we can create tables that we filter from. So here we say, okay, I have my flights, but then I want flights that are in June, where I have, I first do my flights, then I pipe in. So remember, our pipe is like our connecting part. And then I do filters months equals 6. So I run this chunk, and now we can even see in the global environment, we have this new tibble. So flights still exists, but now we have a copy of a smaller piece of it called flights June that we can use. And so this is really, really important, particularly when you're even when you're just messing around initially. Sometimes I just make a copy of in this case, flights, just a straight up, duplicate, and then mess around with the duplicate, because sometimes I may not know what I'm going to do, and I don't want to accidentally mess it up and do something that I can't, I can go back and fix later. One other thing is that I'm actually going to skip all this. Feel free to go back to it if you want within the demo itself. But you can also give it more specific arguments. So like, for example, here, depth delay, which is departure delay, we want less than or equal to 6. So you can also do like your classic mathematical values of less than, greater than, equals, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also do multiple arguments. So here you can use the or and or the and statement. And so the or is like, okay, I want filter month 11 or month 12. So, it's kind of, this makes sense here. I want, flights that left either in November or December. Or I could do and November and December, but obviously that wouldn't really make sense because you can't have a flight that leaves in November and December. So that's why an and wouldn't work. One thing that you could also do is, particularly, let's say you also want to do it with month and day. I'm going to go ahead and do it down here. This is just a little bit of syntax. I could actually also go comma day equals 1. And this now will filter for both of them. So that's also a very useful function. You don't use two lines or two ands. It'll give you an error, and usually the errors are pretty nice sometimes with R, and then they'll actually tell you like, did you mean only one? So that's also pretty useful as well. Awesome. And then, there's also some fancier functions, which I'll let you figure out, like this little in function. Feel free to come to office hours to figure that out, or drop a question in the chat. If you can't figure it out, this is you see this a lot. Yeah, just think about like, what do you think this kind of means here? Like month in vector with 11 and 12. Think about what that could mean. I think it's really fun. Cool, awesome. And now, so the second big function we want to do is mutate. And basically mutate allows you to create new variables. And so what are variables? Let's do a quick reruns. So variables, if we went to back up, each one of these columns is a variable. So year is a variable, month is a variable, day. And let's say I want to create a new one. Then I'm going to go ahead and use mutate. And so, for example, let's say, okay, we have flights, mutate, gain. So this is what I'm calling my new variable. So my new column, depth delay minus arrival delay. So I'm basically creating a new one saying I want the difference between my departure delay and my arrival delay. And you could see why this would be important because, I want to see, well, actually, like, how much time did I gain? And so this tells me, right? And so what really is helpful with mutate is you're reusing, almost always you will reuse data like that you already have. You will combine variables, you will multiply them together. So for example, very common one is like height to width ratio or height to weight ratio. So for example, like I would have one column that's like people's heights, one people that's their weight. I'm like, well, you could weigh 200 pounds, but if you're really tall, that's very normal. As opposed to if you're very short, then you might, be overweight and might need medical attention or whatnot. So it's, but like I can't see it just looking at the columns by themselves. So then I want to create a new variable. I want to mutate. I want to create something else that lets me see the relationship of those two. So that's what mutate can do. One thing that's pretty nice is that you can mutate, you don't just have to do like mutate. You can do multiple variables within one mutate function. So for here we have gain, and then we have air. We put a comma to say like start a new, a new parameter. Airtime equals airtime divided by 60. So this we're actually just putting in terms of like hours because I believe it's in minutes. Maybe is that right? I'm not sure. I'm hoping that's right. But yes, but you get the idea. Yep. And then yeah, of course, then you can even use old variables that you've gotten that you just made in even new variables. And this is where you gotta be a little careful with the order. Like if I put gain per hour, which is calling in airtime and gain like above this, then it won't work. So you want to be sure to keep that in mind. And then once you do that, you can always take out columns doing the little $sign. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Please feel free to ask us any questions. I'm sorry, we might actually do this in the future. I'll see, because this might be nice for in terms of just people's privacy and whatnot. It's actually pretty easy to make. So we'll find out. Yep. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to check out the demos and the activities for this week in the description. And yeah, send us any questions that you may have. Thanks, y'all.